It's a Quake.
Welcome to another exciting episode of It's a Quake. This is a podcast of the Namibia Media Trust where we take charge of our own growth and development by engaging with experts and industry leaders to find solutions to issues affecting us. This is a very special episode because we are here in Okahanja at the Youth in Leadership Bootcamp. My name is Nghimulitete and I will be your host for the 6th episode of It's a Quake. Today I'll be joined by very youthful young leaders to unpack this topic.
It's a Quake.
It's a Quake.
It's a Quake.
It's a Quake.
And this is a special episode because we have with us fellow youth Quakers who will be joining us on this discussion. And we as young people have the potential to take charge of our own growth and development by engaging in these issues. And this is because we as young people make up a large amount of the Namibian population, which also gives us a better position to be able to engage with community leaders and also to be a strong force in these political decisions that are made. And today I have with me very vibrant and very active youth leaders to engage me in this discussion. And please introduce yourself.
My name is Ellison Tjirera. I'm a young person, 35 years of age, and I teach sociology at the University of Namibia.
Okay.
My name is Matheus Kambuze, but please address me as MK, and I serve as a youth activist.
I think we can start with you, Mr. Tjirera. How do you think Namibia is currently doing in terms of youth representation in leadership positions?
I think we have seen over the last couple of years signs of progress. Signs of progress in the sense that we now have very young people in parliament, not the majority of them, but I think it was unheard of say 5-10 years back to have, say, a 22-year-old in parliament or a 25-year-old. So I think we still have got a long way to go. The representation of young people in parliament does not mimic or correspond with the demographics of young people as a bloc, as a constituency. As we all know, Namibia is a predominantly youthful nation. More than 40% of people in Namibia are considered young, between the ages of 18 and 35. And if you include even those who are, say, around 15, say, take 15 to 35, this figure even goes up. So we're talking about at least 60% plus young people. So yes, we have made some progress, but there is a lot to be done.
Okay, Mr. MK, would you like to add to that?
Yeah. In terms of how Namibia is doing, from my perspective, in my opinion, what I can say we can do better. We are doing better, but we can do way better than we're currently doing. If I have to speak out of the political context, we know that the president of AFRIAN is a young person. You know, we have the Children's Parliament, we have the Junior Council. These are young people taking roles. You know, the chief executive vision of PCN is a young person. So we do have young people who are taking up leadership opportunities. However, when it comes to the political fraternity, just like what Mr. Tjirera stipulated, we have young people as well. A small minority per se. We have a minority of young people who are in parliamentary or in political leadership positions, but we can still do better than that.
We can definitely do better. And just a disclaimer for our youth Quakers who are in the audience, if you'd like to contribute to the discussion, please just raise your hand and I will then definitely give you a position or a time to speak. Okay, I would just like to know, why do you think it is important for young people to take up leadership positions in Namibia?
Well, I think the phrase "nothing for us without us" I think captures this, and I think it really encapsulates the reason why young people should take leadership positions. The old folks who are occupying the majority of positions in different positions of influence do not understand our issues as young people, and I think we shouldn't fault them. I mean, it's not their issue. So I think it will only make sense if us as young people represent ourselves and try and make meaningful change for things that make sense to us. And I think every generation, if you like, should have its mission. And I think we should ask ourselves as young people, what is our mission in the socio-political order that we call Namibia? What is it that we want as young people? Yeah, let me not elongate that, so I would leave it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Having said that, I just want to ask MK, do you think that institutions in Namibia, government and private, that they are flexible enough for young people to make changes when in positions of power?
Well, in my utmost opinion, not necessarily. That's because most of the positions that young people occupy have more like a script per se. This is how things should be done. This is how you should talk. This is how you should dress. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then the thing is that with a young person, you need to allow a space for innovative to come through, right? So most institutions or entities do not allow young people to be flexible in their core so that innovative can start coming through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Tjirera, what is your take on it? Do you think that as a young person, when I get into a leadership position, the institutions offer me the freedom and flexibility to be able to make the necessary changes? Or are you siding with Mr. MK saying that they are not flexible, you receive a script as to say this is how things are done and you have to adhere?
I think I would tackle it differently. I wouldn't agree, neither disagree. But what I would say is that institutions are shaped and molded by human beings, by active agents. So I just want to emphasize the issue of agency, as it were. So you can have an institution that is supposedly inflexible, as an example. But I think once you create that kind of critical mass of people, say young people, for example, who would want things to be changed, that inflexible institution is going to change. So I think we shouldn't look at ourselves as passive folks, as passive people. We are active agents who are going to be able to do things that we want. So the onus is on young people. So, and I think across the spectrum, you definitely have different kind of organizational cultures, as it were. So you would have one political party that makes it a bit very difficult for young people to, kind of rise, through the different management or leadership positions, and then you have other organizations that kind of provide that platform. So it's really about where you find yourself and what you can do as an active agent of change. As Mahatma Gandhi once said, be the change that you want to see.
Okay, definitely. I would again just like to call on the audience that if you do have a contribution to any of the questions, please raise your hands and I will definitely recognize you. Okay. What ideals, changes do you think young people in leadership positions today should be fighting for?
I think again that have to be defined by our generational mission as young people. What is it that we want? Okay, and if you look at a country like Namibia that is kind of besetted by high unemployment rate, for example, you have got a huge number of graduates who are just on the streets. So probably you would want young people who, kind of fire that process of innovation, for example. You want innovative people, and you want people, young people who should fight for ideals of higher integrity, transparency and accountability. And I'm saying this again because of the context that we find ourselves in. And I think, for example, the issue of fish rot lingers in one's mind. This would not have happened had we been a country that, that is driven by accountability, transparency, integrity, and all this kind of stuff. So you would want some kind of ethical leadership, as it were, You want to mold a generation of young people that would kind of defend those principles of integrity, of accountability, and of transparency. I think I would say that. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Tjirera mentioned unemployment, which is one of the ideals, I think, or changes that young people in leadership positions should be fighting for. Do you have any more?
Yeah, I think, under the whole topic of unemployment, when as a young person, I'm applying for a job, right? And the question is that, what should young people in leadership positions be fighting for, right? Their ideas. So as a young person, I'm applying for a job, and when it comes to the job requirement says I need to have 15 years or 20 years of experience, right? And as a young person, like, there's no way that I could have such an experience, right? So I think for under unemployment, such things need to be tackled. Availability of internships as well. So we have both government and private entities that make it really difficult for young people to take up positions when it comes to taking up positions through internships per se. So such things under unemployment, just as one of the ideas, need to be tackled as well, because then if these things are not tackled, if these things are not looked thoroughly, the unemployment rate will keep going higher and higher and higher.
Okay, very well said. We do have somebody in the audience who would like to engage, Mr. Rivaldo Kavanga.
Poverty is central to gender-based violence. It branches out to gender-based violence. It branches out to youth unemployment. It branches out to us not being able to have land, to us not being able to have jobs. So fighting poverty initially helps us get rid of a number of different ideals that we're also facing currently as young people, and that's the route that we ought to fight to currently, because I mean, after 30 years of independence, and when you look at different locations in Windhoek, for instance Havana, Korea, they just keep on growing, and in this regard, poverty keeps on growing, unemployment keeps on growing, gender-based violence is on the increase. So fighting poverty should be at the forefront of our priorities as young people.
Very well said. Mr. MK?
Yeah, just want to highlight the point that the young man just raised. Every generation, every single generation will have its own problems. Every generation will have its own problems that need to be solved. But then there are certain problems that carry on from generation to generation. So then the question will come in, what were they doing wrong, or what loopholes did they miss that made such a problem? Like, poverty is not something new. It's something that has been there. So the question will be now, what did the previous generation do that made this thing to escalate? What loophole did they miss? What is that factor, or what are the factors that made this problem to keep on going from generation to generation? Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Rivaldo Kavanga from the audience would like to engage.
Yes, we need to make the rural areas more economic. We need to drive more economic activities to rural areas, because you'd find that most of the people that settle in the outskirts of Windhoek come from the rural areas looking for better job opportunities. So that's one solution that we can look at to fighting poverty, youth unemployment, and gender-based violence all at once. Thank you.
Okay, that's very well said. Of course, also going to the solutions aspect, because we don't only want to be coming up with what are the problems, but also the solutions. And we have been having a heated discussion earlier as youth Quakers about experience and young people having experience to lead. And the question now is, do you think young people have the necessary skills to be effective leaders?
Absolutely, yes. There are a good number of young people who are capable of leading, and they have demonstrated those skills. For example, at high school, you have, what is it called? LRCs. And then at institutions of higher learning, you also have, SRC. So, and I think there are also a number of community organizations and NGOs that are led by young people. So yes, young people have what it takes to lead. And in fact, you also have some old folks who have been in positions of power for a very long time, and clearly you would notice that they have not demonstrated any ability to lead properly, but they kept on being recycled. A good number of you must have noticed, you know, with the, what we now call executive directors of various ministries. Before they were called permanent secretaries, and I think they were really permanent. What would happen is that a permanent secretary will be a colossal failure in one ministry, and then what you hear every now and then is just a reshuffle. So they are just moved from one ministry to the other. You recycle this, you know. So I'm just trying to emphasize the point that it actually doesn't mean that if you are old, you are then capable to lead. You have young people who have got brilliant ideas and who have demonstrated their capacity to lead. So I think, yeah.
Okay, very well said. As we have, seen today and heard of, it is that our constitution says that to be a president, you must be 35 years and older. Why do you think that is? Is it because when you are 35 and older, you have more experience and therefore more capability to lead? Or why do you think that is so, going to skills and, of course, experience?
Yeah, so not just when it comes to being a president, but there are certain roles or positions that require experience, to require more knowledge on a subject matter. However, I'm not downplaying the young people shouldn't take up the roles of presidency per se. However, what can be done is provide platforms for them to take up these roles, because the only way you can know whether or not a person can do a job is putting them in the field and see whether or not they can do the job. So right now we do not know, we have no idea how it would look like if a young person is to take up the role of becoming a president. We have no idea. We do not know how it's going to look like, because we are human beings, and human beings change when provided to in certain environments, right? So in my opinion, I can't really say yes or no, but the only way for us to know whether or not a person can do a job is putting them in the field. But to answer your question, I think it has to do with experience as well, understanding how things work.
Okay,
yeah.
And definitely we do want young people, even below the age of 35, being able to run for president. What do you think, if the problem is experience, what do you think can be done to give young people below the age of 35 enough experience to then say that, no, this young person, even though they are below 35, they can run for president because they have the necessary experience? So what do you think can be done to give young people experience from a younger age to make sure that, they get to be in the position even as young or younger than 35?
Yes, I think I would say the best way to deal with that issue is what I would refer to as political mentorship, where you have got those who have been in a political field or political landscape for some time, to take young people under their wings and mentor them for positions of responsibility. But probably that is not happening, and maybe it's not surprising that it is not happening. The old folks want to hold on to power until they depart to the grave. So probably mentoring young folks, at the back of their minds, it could be that our own positions are threatened. And I think this happens also in institutions, you have, for example, the Affirmative Action Act that, amongst other things, speak about understudies. So, particularly when you have got expatriates holding positions in a particular institution because maybe we don't have those skills, there is that provision that says there must be an understudy. Now, there's a lot of frustration that happens there because, this person who is in that position actually thinks that the moment I prepare this young William to take over, then my own job is threatened. Okay, so I think those are some of the issues that we have to kind of interrogate. But I think mentorship is what should happen. So, and we should have a situation whereby young people have role models.
I would then just like to also extend this question to the audience. I see there is a hand, but maybe you could also dive into this question, because this is an issue that is affecting us, and I think we might have the solutions. What do you think that government or private institutions can do for us to give us experience so that we are able to take up leadership positions? We have a hand in the audience.
I strongly believe that access to information is crucial. And the access to information bill that has been pending that's not passed is what is delaying progress within the youth department. Because in as much as empowerment and mentoring is important, and experience, it will put people in a better position if they have access to the information that they need, that could be then disclosed publicly, and put them in a better position to make informed decisions and choices about whatever it is that they want to be, to better their positions.
Okay, very well said. Anybody else would like to engage? Yes?
I think it's safe to say there's a leadership crisis in the country. Young people are looking to our leaders and seeing things that they don't want to see in them. And I think there was a question about what is the mission for this generation. I think this generation of young people, because you are the leaders that are going to step up, you want to be different from what we are seeing now. Corruption, maladministration, nepotism, whatever, all the social ills, and the political mismanagement. I think the young people right now, there needs to be an ideological framework that you are working with. There are so many things that are wrong, but I don't think society can fix things without understanding first what drives our people, our leaders, our elected officials into doing the things that they're doing. That's just what I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We do have another hand.
As far as, we have a lot of young people that are well-groomed when it comes to leadership positions, taking up leadership. But the problem is, in the offices, as you rightfully said, we are failing to give an opportunity to these young people. So it's about time that young people that are already groomed, and still being groomed, being given the opportunity to be tested. So that's the only way that the young men, young women of this country will get opportunity to come up one day where they want to be.
Okay. Can we have 2 more hands?
This is actually a question that I want to extend to our panelists up there. Is there perhaps a guide on how to be a good leader? Because no one really knows what it takes to be a president except the president himself, So if you can give us tangible answers that could add source, it would be really amazing. Thank you.
Okay. I would also like to extend the same question to the audience, young people. If you do have any answers, please engage. Okay?
I would want to contribute on the grooming part. When like in Namibia, when they are grooming the young people, technically it's not for the growth of the nation, but for political benefits. And Mr. Tjirera, I have a question for you as well. When we're talking about young people, they always complain. This and this is not happening accordingly. The government is not ruling accordingly, and young people are not involved. What strategies should young people take in order to have a clear path in leadership?
Very good questions. We'll just take the last hand, VDM, just before we continue.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Thanks for your opportunity. Is the ministry, because at the end of the time, it's the one to be blamed.
Which ministry?
Of youth. Is it coming out with programs of awareness to come out to the youth, to get a ear from the youth? Yeah.
Okay, I think before I forget, let me just react quickly to your question. I wish there was an official from the Ministry of Youth. But what I could say is that issues that affect young people are cross-cutting. In other words, all ministries should, in one way or the other, have programs projects, whatever you want to call them, that speak to the issues of the youth. Because again, young people are the majority in this country. So there is a national youth policy. I think it was revised in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. Something, is it this year? This year, yeah. Okay, thank you. But I think it took quite a long time before it got revised. But that policy is just some guide that, kind of extract various issues that affect young people, and just to act as a guide, but for everyone. So youth issues or youth problems are not the sole responsibility of the Ministry of Youth. In the Ministry of Mines, you must have some projects that advance the interest of young people. I don't know, some fund that would fund engineers and what. In the Ministry of Fisheries, is any of you here who have applied for a fishing quota? Did you get?
Do they give young people the opportunity to apply for fishing quotas? I think is the question.
The information is there. But I think it's actually in the aftermath of Fish Road that a good number of things, started to come to the light in terms of also just what is it that you need to apply for a fishing quota, for example. For a very long time, this kind of information was, only known by very few people. That shouldn't be the case. So, so you can think across various sectors, either, in terms of development finance, and so issues of young people can be taken on board at various levels. It's not the sole responsibility of the Ministry of Youth. My other brother was talking about what these things.
Should we have a leadership guide on how to be a good leader? Should presidents perhaps come up with a guide on how to be an effective leader, perhaps?
Well, look, you can read on leadership theories and stuff, but I think generally, again, I would still want to emphasize that it's not really about age. You have got young people who have demonstrated excellent leadership skills, say at student politics level. I studied at the University of Namibia. There were young people, some of them who were not really part of any kind of dominant political formations, but they could organize at that level. So I don't have a template, as it were, that I would say this is what you should do to be an effective leader. But I think generally there are a couple of things that are important, and I think being a person of integrity is very important. Being accountable and being transparent. These things are don't sell people dreams that you are not gonna fulfill. So you would already see at the political level, if you have got a leader who promises you that if you vote for me, I will provide free Wi-Fi in Katutura next year, and that doesn't happen. That person lied, okay? And it is your responsibility, for example, but again, the other problem is that sometimes, it's 5 years to take out that person who lied to you, but there's nothing that you can do, okay? Like in an interim. And, but I think I'm going on and on now.
Okay, Mr. Tjirera, I would then just like to, because you were talking about fishing quotas, and it got me very interested because I want opportunity, and I know a lot of young people want opportunity, as well as, you said there are a lot of projects that the Ministry of Youth is also doing, but I also did not know that young people can apply for fishing quotas. It might be, is it because, do you think, young people that don't know this information, is it because we are ignorant, or is it because these ministries don't really put out this information on the right platforms that young people have access to, or are they just not doing enough to make sure that we have access to this information?
Yeah, well, I think the answer to your question is within your question.
Okay.
First and foremost, when it comes to ignorance, again, I just say it has to do with interest. If as a young person, as a young man, if I am not interested in that, I won't even think of doing anything concerning that. I will do what I'm interested in, right? So young people have different interests. Just like Mr. Tjirera kept referring to student bodies within institutions, tertiary institutions, right? So we have the call for application goes out there. So those who are interested shoot their shot. And those who are not interested, call it, nah, I'm good, I'll pass, right? So we are not saying these things are not given out there. The call of applications are out there. Again, when it comes to ministries, I'm not well capacitated to answer that question because I really do not know what are the procedures. But in most cases, most of this information is disclosed. It's within a perimeter within that ministry or institution.
Which is probably sometimes very hard for young people to get this information. But just because we are wrapping up, we're coming to almost the end of our discussion, I would just like to ask this very important question. Please be brief as possible. How do you think, because we have young people who enter leadership positions and we have young people out there pointing fingers, you are a sellout. Once you got into the position, you forgot about the things that you were fighting for before you got into the position. So very briefly, how do you think we can perhaps help these leaders, or how can they help themselves to not fall into the sellout side? And how do they keep remembering what they were fighting for before they got into the position?
We have to be ideologically clear, you know, without any kind of guiding ideas of what is it that we want as young people. You would fall for this kind of stuff where you are captured by the political elite, or you become a surrogate of the political establishment. So we have to be very clear as young people, organize around issues that affect us. But I think also sometimes young people are captured by the allure of materialism, you know. So you would have these young people, this young person, or you know, a couple of young people who were very progressive in their thoughts, and you thought that they could really go far. And then all of a sudden, the person started driving a J-Wagon, this expensive car.
Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah. And then, that is it, if you get what I mean. They are gone, and they are not going to relate to the material conditions of the young people.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Tjirera. Any last words from you, Matheus? How do you prevent young people in leadership positions from being sellouts and forgetting about what they were fighting for?
Yeah, well, just to add the berry or the cherry on the cake that Mr. Tjirera just baked right now, this has to be it has to come on a personal level, right? Understanding your purpose and why you went there. Right. So when you have a deeper connection and a deeper understanding on why you went there, the materialism won't really come. Yes, it will be there, but then you still remain focused, right? Because the truth of the matter is that certain things are attached to the role that you're going to be playing in that position. So yeah, it has to come on a personal level, understanding and being truthful to your purpose. What am I doing here? Why am I here? Irregardless of what's going to be waiting for you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Matheus Kambuze, as well as Mr. Tjirera. This was a very insightful discussion. I also like to say thank you for our audience for engaging. And we have come to the end of this discussion. Don't forget that, of course, you can still engage with us in the comment. And until next time, thank you so much.
It's a Quake.